And welcome to the Pullman City Council meeting for this Tuesday, April the 9th. And time for taking roll. City.
Mayor Johnson.
Present.
Councilmember Chapman. Councilmember McCall. Here. Councilmember Parks.
Here.
Councilmember Records.
Here.
Councilmember Sorensen. Councilmember Weller.
Present.
Councilmember Wright.
Here.
Brandon Chapman notified us that he could not be here tonight. Do I hear a motion to excuse him?
So moved.
Second.
Moving second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Al Sorensen notified us that there was a lot of water in his Pioneer Insurance office, so he's bailing and he will be here, but he'll be late.
He's literally
Yeah. So under announcements tonight, we have a number of them, one from the police department, and our Commander Chris Tennant says that North Grand and Stadium right now is some localized flooding. If you can avoid that intersection, it would be good. Is there any more updates, Chris? Yeah, you can come to the podium.
No, I just heard a radio announcement that there was a small mudslide on Davis Way, but I don't have an update on that. So
Okay.
the creek at North Grand Skating Way has just gone over its banks. The 700 block of Grand is overflowing right now, so just your typical low spots.
Okay. All right. And then Clayton, you have the M&O crew making sure that all the storm drains are open as they keep sending this stuff down towards Colfax, right?
It gets there
Just the way it goes, okay.
And
So we're all up to date on that. And other announcements tonight, we're in the midst of the Animal Care Control Appreciation Week. So Pullman Police Department's code enforcement officers protect and educate the public while protecting the welfare of animals suffering from disease, injury, abuse, or starvation. The Pullman Police Department also recognizes and thanks the hardworking staff of the volunteers of the Whitman County Humane Society who support quality care for Pullman animals through essential rescue, shelter, and adoption services. April 14th to 20th is National Public Safety Telecommunications Week. It's my privilege to recognize Whitcomb 911 dispatchers, the first responders who call for help, and they were busy tonight notifying the police department, fire department of different things. All types of emergency 911 dispatchers are there to take the call and make a difference every single day. Celebrate Arbor Day on Thursday, April 18th from 1:30 to 2 p.m. at the Pioneer Center, 240 Southeast Dexter. Pullman Park staff will be on hand to answer your questions about tree planting, pruning, and maintenance, and the first 25 attendees will receive a free tree seedling. And the Palouse Habitat for Humanity's annual casual barbecue dinner, bluegrass, and auction fundraiser, Beans and Jeans, will be Saturday, April 20th at the SEL Event Center. And you can buy tickets online. With that, we now have a presentation tonight from Brittany Christie of the Pullman Chamber of Commerce and all the things tourism is doing. She also has an events hat too, but she's tourism now, so. Brittany, welcome. And I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for joining Tony Bean and Jenny going to the airport conference for trying to work on getting more air service for us. Thank you for representing us.
Thank you. I appreciated the opportunity to go. So thank you, Mayor and Council, for allowing me to come to speak with you this evening. For those of you who don't know me, I am Brittany Kristen, and I am the Tourism Director for the Pullman Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Center. Too fast. Right out the gate. To begin, I wanted to give you some background on how I came to this position. I started at the Chamber in September of 2016 as the Events Coordinator and National Lentil Festival Director. Then with Carol Cooper retiring in August of 2018, I found myself in an opportunity to move into her old role, and I officially started as the Tourism Director August 20th of 2018. Even though I moved into that role, I did retain the role of Director of the National Lentil Festival, and I'm really excited to have been in this now for 7 months, I think. So moving into this position in August, there were a lot of things that were already in place through Carol, and it gave me an opportunity to learn more about why this position exists, what the goal was in starting, and how the lodging tax works between the city and the chamber and the RCW. So it was a really good learning opportunity for me. So flashing forward to 2019, based upon what I learned with my time with Carol, comments from council, and also information from the RCW, I began to plan this year's marketing campaign. So the idea of Visit Pullman came from the desire to really want to promote Pullman as a destination and the home base for those who are exploring the Palouse Scenic Byway. We want people to know that Pullman is the destination because it has the amenities, and it's the gateway to the byway, so they can go and explore and then come back and enjoy other times in Pullman. So who do we advertise with? As you can see on the screen, this is a sampling. When deciding who to advertise with, I looked at who we already had established relationships with in terms of advertisers, where our leads were coming from, why someone from that particular market might be interested in coming to Pullman. I know in the past years we've really focused on photographers, but there's been a shift. Some things have happened and we reevaluated, and now we're focusing more on bicyclists, motorcyclists, families, retirees, and those self-proclaimed Pacific Northwest adventurers. And that's just to name a few. So here are some examples of advertising that we currently have out. Obviously, Pullman is prominent. We want people to know that Pullman is the place where they can start their adventure in their days and then wake up and do it all over again, whether they're staying in Pullman or they're going out to see what is all around the Palouse. And then here are some other examples that I have as well that show what we are looking at. Pullman is definitely first in the focus. We have a lot of advertisements that feature that game day photo from October when ESPN Game Day came here. But we share a little bit about what scenery's like and then activities on the Palouse. And like I said, cycling is definitely one of the big things that we have here. So that's just some examples for you. One of the other things that I think we do a really great job of is sharing information. We have a lot of brochures that the tourism department has created over the years, and with that we have a lot of ways that we're able to distribute them. So hotels and motels up and down the Palouse Scenic Byway. We work with programs like the WSU Vet Medicine program, who has a lot of individuals who come to bring their pets to Pullman, and then SEL as well, as they're working to recruit new employees or help relocate someone from a different area. So with that, let's take a look at some numbers. So for this month of, the month of March, we mailed 764 information packets. That's a lot. We had 7 relocation packet requests, and then there were 6 digital information packet requests. In the first quarter of 2019, 2,371 information packets were mailed. In comparison to this time last year, we've nearly doubled how many requests and mailings we receive and complete. So I think that has to do with the fact that we've changed our marketing strategy. We've listened to what people are wanting us to share about our area, and because of that, more people are wanting to come explore Pullman, the byway, and what we have to offer in this area.
Brittany, did you see a hit after the game day when we had the 3-hour commercial for Pullman? Did you see some more requests come in?
Yes, I don't have the numbers from last year in front of me to tell you exactly, but we had a lot of calls, we had a lot of hits on the website, and we had a lot of people want to learn more about Pullman because it was a place unlike anything they normally see on game day. So we definitely saw an increase in interest in Pullman because of that. And that kind of leads right into our social media engagement. We are continuing to see more people like and follow our pages. They're coming to our websites to learn more information. They're going back to our social media pages to learn what the community is doing, maybe what events that they could check out that they wouldn't necessarily think to go visit during their time here. And I'm not going to spend too much more time on this, but I think we'll definitely continue to see our engagement growing. So with that, I've had the opportunity to go to a couple different events so far this year, and one of them was the Mead and Hunt Air Service Development Conference, like Glenn had mentioned, and I was invited to represent Pullman, which was a really great honor for me, especially being so new in this tourism position. But as we pitched to the different airlines, it was really important for me to be there and represent Pullman and show them why air service is so important to our community and how additional air service would enhance our community and service our different growing sectors like business, education, and tourism. So that was a really great opportunity for me. Marie Dimkowski, the executive director of the Pullman Chamber, her and I went to the Cougs First event in Seattle in March as well, where we had the opportunity to promote Pullman as a destination for business development, retreats, conferences, and events. And the photo on the slide, I think, is a really good example of some of the materials that we had with us to promote Pullman and why people should consider it for their next destination for a satellite business, to host a conference. It was a really good networking opportunity, and we're going to be in Spokane this month to continue those conversations and meet a whole new sector of people that are maybe trying to find their way back home. So, through my role as the director of the National Lentil Festival, I have had the privilege of working with an organization called the Washington Festival and Event Association. And just last week, I was asked to join their board of directors. I believe I am the second person from Eastern Washington to serve on this board because they were wanting more of a voice, and I was selected by my peers, which was a great honor for me. I think it's important for me to serve on this board so we can put Pullman further on the map. Obviously, the National Lentil Festival has seen a lot of success over the last 30 years, and we hope for another 30 more years of success. But this is just going to be another opportunity for us to show these big dogs over in Seattle and on the west side that Pullman can be just as great. So I'm really excited about that opportunity. And I would be remiss if I didn't share with you that this year at the Summit Awards, the National Lentil Festival was awarded another 6 gold awards, and you can see here that there's a lot of work that goes into this event. It's not just me, it's our community, so this is something that we all can be really proud of. Since I have just a little bit time left, I just wanted to touch a little bit on some of the marketing trends that I'm seeing going forward and what I'm thinking about for 2020. Modular travelers is something that's becoming more of a trend in the industry, and these are individuals who are wanting blocked experiences. So right now we have one offering through the Palouse Scenic Byway. We have the 3 different day trips that people can take. But going forward, I want to identify and define further opportunities for us to do that in Pullman, whether it's a half-day excursion, a full-day excursion, coming up with scavenger hunts, something along those lines to get people out and about in Pullman. I think that's really important, and as we look down the list, probably comes as no surprise, people want unique and local experiences when they come to different towns. I think we have a lot of things here to offer, like a Portland or a Seattle. We just have to really define what that is and how we want to show that. And so I'm really excited to be in this role and to have this opportunity to do that and share Pullman with the world. So with that, I thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Questions or comments? Okay, Eileen?
We've learned so much through this process over the last 2 years with 2040 and the town, it's amazing. And you think you've heard it all. We've had all those community meetings, you think you've heard it all. I was chatting with my Uber driver, and he mentioned that he had been to Pullman. His ex-girlfriend was here or something. And I says, well, what did you like about Pullman? What do you think about Pullman? He thought for a minute, and he says, it's clean and inexpensive. So just when you think you've heard it all, somebody comes up with something. I thought that was so charming, and I thought, he's right. So that was really cool. So just add that to the list of fun things. Yeah. Inexpensive.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, Nathan?
Brittany, thank you so much. You're obviously extremely good at your job, and I appreciate your great presentation on this and definite good showing here from the chamber. So just wanted to thank you, and I'm looking forward to your future success.
Thank you very much.
And Pat?
And I'd like to say, having been on the selection committee for Brittany, that we did a splendid job. But But we truly are blessed to have Brittany, and her moving into the role of tourism director we were doing a great job, but it's been escalated to a different level, and I really appreciate all the hard work that she does, and we can just see it in the type of advertising and promotion that she's doing. So thank you, Brittany, very much.
Thank you.
Dan?
I'm just really excited to see the kind of growth in some of those numbers that we have, and I think that really speaks to kind of the work that you're doing and kind of the energy and momentum that's happening in Pullman and has been happening for the last couple of years. I was particularly interested in the brief comments you made about VetMed and SEL in how you're partnering with them. And I'd like to talk with you more about that, to build some more bridges with WSU in kind of the recruitment efforts that we're doing up at WSU with trying to get more, do more recruitments that really target people who are going to want to come from other areas of the country to Pullman, and highlighting all the things that are great about Pullman as part of a package of enticing people to come here. So I'd really like to talk with you after the meeting.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes, happy to help.
And one of the nice things that happened this year, too, with the Suppliers Conference for SEL, they invited the Chamber. I think the good relationship that we have with the Chamber, they invited that, and Adam filled in for me, and I wrote a letter welcoming all these suppliers to Pullman, because this could also be a great location for their business as well. And this was something new that we reached out for this year, and it's been really great, too. So, and of course, Brittany, I've worked with you for 4th of July, and I'm very happy. I wouldn't have to be on a selection committee. I just knew that she was good. All right. Any other comments with that? Thank you so much, Brittany. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you very much.
That, we now move the consent agenda. These items are considered routine in nature. The council's had a chance to look at them. Do I hear a motion to read by title only?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That, Laura?
Thank you, Mayor. Your consent agenda consists of a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes of the regular meeting of March 26, 2019, and approve them as submitted. A motion approving disbursements represented by accounts payable checks numbered 95242 through 95398, totaling $374,756.17. Payroll checks numbered 74405 through 74409, totaling $4,877.59, and electronic transfers totaling $148,946.87, and a motion to approve a lodging tax grant to Pullman Chamber of Commerce in an amount up to $20,000 for the Field Fest 2019 to be held September 28, 2019.
Does the council have any item they would like to have removed this time?
Yes, number 3, please.
Number 3. Any others? With that, the consent agenda consists of items 1 and 2. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And with that, Pat?
So in deference to the request that was made at our last regular council meeting by Councilmember Chapman, he asked to have a little bit more time to review the lodging tax request for Field Fest. And so although he is not here tonight, we felt it was appropriate to review that request tonight with the Chamber and Tourism being here as part of the program. So with that, I would next defer to Mayor Johnson, who had some correspondence from Councilmember Chapman regarding that.
And Brandon sent me a note when he said he had to be in Washington, D.C. He said, I previously requested a lodging tax grant request to be pulled from the consent agenda for additional time. I have reviewed this, and the amount looks good, though truthfully, I think they could even have more money and bring in bigger bands. Maybe the start of something amazing, something like South by Southwest comes to mind. So I'm okay with the amount on this specific request, and that's from Brandon. So.
And so I, sitting on the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee and being part of the process where we reviewed this particular grant, I did want to say that as members of the committee, we did have lots of questions about this grant because it was a first-time event and the amount of money that was being requested. So I totally understand if there are other questions or needs for clarification on what is being asked for, and felt it appropriate with Brittany being here that, any questions could be answered in that manner. So I guess I would, at that point, defer to the mayor and open it up for further questions or clarification.
So does the council have any more questions on this particular one?
I don't have a question on this particular grant application, but something I've been thinking about with all of these grant applications for the lodging tax grants that we review. I think I just don't fully understand the process and the selection criteria that you go through on that committee. So I don't know if you can talk a little bit about, kind of, because we see the packets that come with there, and there's kind of the grading structure, and then how do we go from that score to, does that score impact, reduction on, if they score lower, does that cause you to say, we'll still grant the money, but we'll reduce the amount? I mean, how do those decisions kind of come out?
No, it really doesn't. The score itself addresses the main criteria of when the event takes place, which we hope it's going to be in times that are less busy, than other times. The potential of how many people can be drawn to it. And then I guess we just look at what the budget is, although that's not a requirement to be submitted. But if one of the questions is if there are funds that come in from other sources, and how our funds would help impact that particular event. And so it really just depends on the consensus of the group if the amount seems to be sensible or logical to what they're doing. And of course, if it's a nonprofit that's asking for dollars, we don't want to put them into a total profit situation either, because then what are they going to do with that additional revenue? Hopefully that goes back into the program. But each one of the requests really it's looked at differently, and we really took a huge step in terms of making our evaluation process very objective. And where we have our criteria and our checklist has to do with all those things that I just mentioned. What's the potential of people coming in? When is it going to happen? So I think that's really what we look at.
One of my other questions is, when we have events that are, every year, or they occur in a pattern, and we're seeing lodging tax grant requests from the same event, do we ever look back at do we have any kind of way to look back on because we're talking about estimated, how many people come to the event. Right. Do we have any reporting on the back end of?
We do.
Okay.
We do, and that's one of the requirements of the people that put the request through, that they return that information back to us. And if I'm not mistaken, we do have to report that back to the state. It's the JLARC that kind of oversees this activity.
When you're doing the request the next year, do you look back at that? What was the return?
We do.
Okay.
We do. And then in some instances, and I'll take the Lentil Festival probably is the main one that comes to mind, that was continually a lodging tax request, and became such a regular event that now it has become obviously a line item in the budget. So those are things that we do.
And 4th of July is in that same category. We had
to
approved what we did 4th of July too. So. Eileen.
Yeah, so for clarification, Pat, because I had a question from someone about this also. So when the application applicant gets a 100% score, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to get 100% of the money they requested.
Correct.
There are other considerations.
Correct.
In addition to that, because that was the question. Somebody says, well, he's 100, well, no, yeah, so, because I did get that question.
Yeah, correct. And again, it has to do with if there are other, I mean, we look at it from a standpoint, what are other sources of revenue, that are coming in, and, where, if, for example, some events will charge, a ticket fee. And so what's the amount of the ticket gate coming in based on, what they've asked for in terms of the lodging grant. And again, we don't want to put somebody into a for-profit, operation. We want to help them get off the ground, be successful, and then go on that way, but not necessarily subsidize, everything else that they might be looking at. So we do look at that.
Nathan?
So, just real quick question about Field Fest itself. I was looking through the documents, I couldn't find where it's going to be located. Am I missing? Am
No,
I-
you're not missing
Okay.
anything. That was still kind of
determined?
fluid.
So
Okay.
with the weather, the way it's been, we have a couple places identified, but until we can go out and evaluate the sites and the sogginess of the ground, we haven't finalized the location yet. But I can tell you, it will be in Pullman city limits, so that I can guarantee that.
And do you know the operating times with it being a music fest and everything like
Here
that?
somewhere.
We're looking for the event to run from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m.
Okay, cool, all right.
That was our
With an
initial.
appropriate noise ordinance.
Right, exactly.
I had that in mind.
Looks awesome, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, well, and then the other thing that we talked about in regard to that, depending upon where the final location is going to be, that we looked at how we can make sure that that becomes a total city draw, how we can pull people downtown if it's not necessarily in the proximity of downtown, and just to make it more of a total community event. So that, again, will be determined once we, the chamber, the event group, gets the final venue solidified, so.
Super.
With that, Pat, do you want to make a motion on this one then?
I move to approve the lodging tax grant request for $20,000 for Field Fest 2019.
Second?
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes? Off we go. Now we're on the regular agenda tonight, and the first item is a resolution authorizing a bid by Motley & Motley for the Spring Street utility upgrades. And Clayton is here as our Deputy Public Works Director. Thank you, Clayton.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. The item before you is award of the Spring Street Utility Upgrades Contract. This project provides for the necessary upgrading and reconstruction of public utility pipelines in Spring Street in advance of a large arterial street resurfacing project scheduled for next year. 2 bids for the project were received on April 2nd. The low bidder is Motley Motley Incorporated with a total of $375,618, which is below the engineer's estimate. Funding for the project will be from the Stormwater Fund and the Sewer Maintenance Budget of the Utility Fund. The project is scheduled to be completed by September 20th. Staff is recommending council award contract 19-05 Spring Street Utility Upgrades to Motley Motley Incorporated. Are there any questions?
Okay. Any questions of Clayton?
Is this going to take care of the issue at the bottom of the Spring Street Hill between Derby and Dexter and the gigantic potholes that position themselves there?
M&O will have to take care of that. This is just for the utility pipelines.
Oh, okay.
Next year, Spring Street will be resurfaced
Right.
from,
But we're going to get the utilities in first.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, perfect, thank you.
so we'll have to do some maintenance on those potholes to get us through till next year when we resurface the whole street.
There's no further questions. Do I hear a motion on this?
Move to adopt Resolution R 20-19.
So-
Second, floor.
Resolution number R-20-19, a resolution accepting the bid of Motley Inc. for Spring Street utility upgrades and authorizing execution and delivery of the contract for said project.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 2 is a resolution authorizing submittal of the certified local government grant application, the Washington State Department of Archaeology, Historic Preservation. And Pete Dickinson, our planning director.
Thank you, Mayor. We talked about this grant application a couple of weeks ago. It was prepared by the city's Historic Preservation Commission with the help of planning staff. It involves a proposal to survey approximately 50 historic properties on College Hill in an area generally bordered by Stadium Way, Lake Street, Colorado Street, and B Street. It's about 23 acres in size. This grant money comes from federal funds that are passed through the State Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation in this competitive application process. The application before you requests about $15,300 in federal funds, most of which would go towards the professional consultant service fee. If approved, the work would take place between February and August of next year, and we would notify all affected property owners beforehand. As we discussed last time, the purpose of the project is simply to generate information, and property owners are always in control of the historic designation of their individual property. The action requested of you tonight is to act on the resolution before you that authorizes submittal of this grant application to the state, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
You said application to the state, but you also said they're federal money, and so that goes from the state to the feds, is that how it basically?
Correct,
Okay.
yes. The money is passed through the state, and then there's a certain amount of money that the federal government provides to the state, and then the state has 10% of that money that they pass on to the local governments who are practicing historic preservation. So that's how it works.
Yeah, I've got I apologize, I was not at the March 26th meeting, so you're probably maybe been over some of this ground. The 2 previous surveys that are mentioned in here, were they reconnaissance level or were they intensive level?
The downtown survey was reconnaissance, and then the one on the south part of College Hill was an intensive level survey.
And did we use a professional consultant for those other ones as well?
We did.
Okay. Who chooses the 50 properties to be surveyed?
That's done through a collaboration between staff, the Historic Preservation Commission, and the consultant. So there's a process where we determine which of the 50 properties within this area kind of rise to the top, the ones that we want to survey.
Can you give me an example of what some of their considerations, other than the fact that they are 50 years of age or older?
Documentation in the state database for historic preservation, the Wizard database that you're familiar with. So we'll take a look at that database to determine what kind of rises to the top. Usually there's, because the area selected is limited, that's not usually a difficult decision to make.
Are the property owners individually notified?
Yes.
And is there an opt-out? Can they opt out?
When we did the intensive survey of the southern part of College Hill, we did allow property owners to opt out of that particular survey. And once we informed the Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation staff that we had done it that way, they said, we sure don't like for that to happen, because we would want you to look at it in a more objective fashion in terms of what the historic properties are there and do an intensive level study. So they objected to that. So going into this, we're assuming that there would not be an opt-out provision.
So walk us through the process. What does the intensive survey, what does it actually entail?
So the consultant will do a substantial amount of research up front, using all resources that they have at their disposal. Then they will take photographs at the site and interview people who may have some information regarding the significance of the properties involved. They'll also probably talk to the Historical Society here locally and just put together that wealth of information for the intensive level survey.
As you know, I've been active in the Landlord-Tenant Association, and there have been some kind of odd things that have happened in the past about people taking pictures. And so can we make sure that people get notified as to when someone might be taking pictures of the property, so tenants can be notified if there are concerns? I mean, that might make people uncomfortable if they see somebody standing out on the sidewalk taking pictures through their front window. I know this has been talked
Sure.
about before, and and I know that we talked once before, and I can't remember exact context, about any surveys, windshield surveys or whatever, anything that would be done from the public right away. Is that
Correct.
Can we be comfortable with that?
Correct.
There will be no access or egress onto the property. This will all be done from the public right away.
It would be done from the public right away unless permission was secured otherwise.
Okay, thank you, Pete.
Any other comments or questions? Then do I hear a motion on this resolution?
Move to adopt Resolution R-21-19.
Second.
Resolution number R-21-19, a resolution authorizing the submittal of a certified local government grant application to the Washington State Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation for the purpose of conducting a historic property inventory on College Hill.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstains?
Count abstention.
Well, I'm going to give you the option here. Okay? With that, we move on. Item number 3 is a resolution supporting the passage of Pullman Regional Hospital ballot proposition for the April 23rd special election ballot. Adam?
Thank you, Mayor, council members. The resolution in front of you is, as the mayor said, in support of the Pullman Regional Hospital $29 million bond. It covers 4 primary areas, which include community-wide electronic medical records, a redesign of the current hospital space, an update to medical equipment, and a new community healthcare pavilion.
And this is something that we ran by the council after Scott Adams' presentation. The council basically said they would like to have a resolution to support this. Any further comments on this? And if not, do I hear a motion on this resolution?
Move to adopt Resolution number R-22-18.
19.
Oh, sorry, I'm reading it, this is,
Second.
sorry.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Oh, you did second, okay. Would you read the resolution, please?
Resolution number R-22-19, a resolution supporting the passage of the Pullman Regional Hospital ballot proposition on the April 23rd, 2019 special election ballot for the issuance of $29 million in general obligation bonds for the purpose of providing funds to finance improvements to Pullman Regional Hospital facilities and service technologies.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 4 is a motion to authorize the creation of an economic development manager position. Once again, Adam.
Thank you, Mayor. This was a position that was budgeted for during the biennial budget process. We now need to bring it to you to authorize the creation of the position. I'm pretty excited about the fact that the council has decided to go this route, at least during the budget process. Some of the things that this individual would focus on are things that we just haven't really spent the time and effort on in the past to the extent that I think we'd like to. It's not that it wasn't a goal, but it is tough to dedicate enough staff time to some of the things that this person would focus on. One of the main items that they would focus on is business retention and expansion, BRE, which basically means they work with existing businesses to see what are their aspirations and goals for growing their existing business, trying to find space for them to allow for them to grow, and workforce development. Also working with trying to recruit new businesses, which is something we've talked about at several different opportunities with you all. So it would be a really integral position that would work with a lot of our partners in the area that work on economic development. They'd help come up with a version of a strategic plan for really helping to keep our economy strong and diverse as best as we can. And then they would focus on various parts of town, including downtown, which would be obviously one of their focal areas, but really making sure that we're identifying what are the key commercial districts that are ripe for redevelopment, or that are maybe even new commercial areas that we just haven't identified yet. But to have someone who's dedicated to this task on city staff, I think is going to be a benefit to not just us and not just our residents, but also our businesses and our local partners that work in this realm as well.
Comments or questions on this? And I know already the Chamber in 2040 is already working on a website that's going to, how to plant your business here. We've seen some mock-ups on that. That's going to be exciting too, and then hopefully this person will be able to work with that as well in recruiting a business. So, Nathan?
So I want to make sure, moving forward, I think it's a great idea, very forward-thinking, but we have a number of different economic agencies. I'd love to see them work collaboratively, whether it's Police Knowledge Corridor, Chamber. Okay, so it's not reinventing the wheel then?
No,
Yeah.
this person would be partnering with all those organizations. There's a desire to have someone who's working more closely with some of the downtown association items as well. So this person will be very much out and about and working collaboratively with all the organizations that you mentioned.
Awesome.
But definitely city-focused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay?
The document number 3 here, the kind of the position description,
Yes.
is that still just a draft form?
Yes.
Okay.
So I've got a couple of wordsmithing things. Could I meet up with you later?
Absolutely,
Okay.
please, yes, yeah. The sooner the better, so I can get it prepared to get it out, but yeah, please send me any changes that we should make.
And do I hear a motion on this?
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Motion to authorize the creation of Economic Development Manager position. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now comes discussion time with Pullman's electric bus strategy. The ever-changing situation with electric buses. Wayne Thompson is our transit manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Last summer, I brought the topic of electric buses to you as a discussion topic, and at that time, there was a lot of pressure from legislation to move towards electric buses, actually non-carbon emitting vehicles in general, or public fleets like ours that are non-emergency fleets. There was also a move with city or state and federal grants to go exclusively towards electric-only vehicles. We were excluded from an electric hybrid bus because of the limitation at the time. And also at that time, agencies across the state were declaring their intent and their progress towards moving towards those 100% electric bus fleets. What we decided at that time, last June, was to move that direction, to start transitioning our fleet to electric buses. We decided to begin the study of the infrastructure that would get our facility upgraded electric-wise to handle charging stations, and also to start looking at grants that would fund both that upgrade and charging stations as well as the very expensive buses. We made what I still believe to be an informed decision, the right decision, especially for the right reasons. We expressed our intent to keep vehicles on the road that were producing as little carbon emissions as possible. That was the intent, and it still is. Fortunately, we didn't end up in a situation as a beta site for a battery/bus company producing buses, only to find out that the batteries wouldn't hold up in the harsh winter weather or handle our hills, because move forward to now, 10 months later, and agencies across the state are finding that those electric bus fleets that they had ordered are not what they thought they were getting. The batteries basically aren't holding the charge in hot summers, cold winters. I think we're in a good position here as far as hills, but basically the battery life from those companies are not what they thought they would be. The grants as well are also being opened up again to hybrids and diesel buses. And alternative fuels, biofuels, renewable diesels are also a legitimate option in the non-electric fleets. So last month I had the opportunity to go to the Gillig company factory in Livermore, California. It was a pre-production meeting for a bus that we've ordered. It's an electric hybrid bus, possibly our last hybrid if we move fully towards electric still. But Chris Arvis, the city's automotive repair supervisor, and myself took a half-day opportunity to talk with Gillig about their electric buses. They have produced 3 so far. They're all test buses. We had the chance to actually put our hands on 2 of those 3. We had the chance to ask questions of their corporate executives about the direction and future of their electric bus fleet. All of our buses are Gilligs. All of our diesels, all of our hybrids are Gilligs. And it would be very advantageous for our mechanical staff to stick with Gilligs. And they have started manufacturing electric buses, but just these 3 at this point. So after having that opportunity to visit with the staff there at Gillig at the factory, this is what I can tell you. A fully charged bus, which is an 8-hour overnight charge, will hold 600 kilowatts of charge. Of that, only 80% is really accessible. The rest either would run your battery down too far to be healthy on the battery, or it wouldn't get you back to the shop. So a fully charged battery, currently, industry-wide, and this isn't just Gillig, they're saying they're being conservative, that's 150 miles. So the question you're thinking is the same question I asked last night. Went in this morning, researched it. Our mileage on a typical route, we can run our evening routes, the Wheaton Lennell, 70 miles, no problem. We can run a couple of others, the Crimson and the Loop routes, under 150. But the rest are all over 150 miles. The Paradise, just barely 160 miles. It'd be stuck here in front of City Hall, wouldn't make it back to the shop. Silver Route, 210 miles in a day, would not work on a full charge. The stated goal for the industry by Gillig is 900 kilowatts. They're currently doing 600, as I said. The challenge is weight. Each of these battery packs, fully charged, will hold 74 kilowatts of charge. So the issue is weight. The more of those you keep adding, you eventually reach a point of it's counteracting the productivity of having electric buses. Too much weight, it just doesn't work. So that's what the industry, not just Gillig, is working on. How to get up to 900 kilowatts, which for an average fleet, certainly for ours, would get us the miles we need in a day. And as I said before, I think the timing is good for us. We're not a test site. We're learning from others' mistakes. And the local situation right here in Pullman, here's where I see where we are. We did not get a grant this winter that would have provided a first electric bus. Probably good timing, but at the same time, that grant would have also provided the funding for the electrical infrastructure and our first charging station. But we do have a grant pending. I expect this month, maybe early May, to find out whether or not we received a grant for 80% funding for 2 electric buses. So because that's still pending, we have continued our work on the electrical infrastructure project with Design West here in town. It's a study on what it would take infrastructure-wise and cost-wise to get that in place. I'm content to wait for Gillig to put out the first 30 buses. They've got 30 on order. They'll produce after these tests are run in May of 2020. In that time, what I would like us to do locally is to apply for a federal grant that's available right now. We have our name in the hat if we want to proceed, but it would fund the study we're doing. It's about a $7,000 study locally. It would also fund the infrastructure work, which is about $270,000. It would also fund the first charging station, which is $125,000. So it's a $400,000 project. This grant is up to 90% coverage. So I'm ready to start working on it if the council agrees that's the direction we want to go. I would also like to consider looking more seriously again at hybrid buses and even diesels, since those are now available for grant coverage, which a year ago they were not being considered as eligible for grant coverage, and we don't buy any new bus without 80% funding. It's just too much of a hit on our reserves. Realizing why we went this direction in June, we are concerned as a community and a council about emissions and clean air. If we do go towards diesel buses again, I would certainly want to continue my search for a biofuel or renewable diesel source. So if we're running diesel buses, we're not emitting the carbon emissions that we are now. The fuel's out there, but it's on the West Coast. If we're going to run diesel buses and continue with our commitment to low or zero carbon emissions, I would like to continue searching for a source, either out of Spokane or off of the coast to fuel those buses. But hybrids, in particular, are still a legitimate option. Electric charging station work certainly says we are moving towards electric still. The timing is good. Our main provider, Gillig, is testing theirs. They're putting their first off-the-line buses out next May and June. So my intent tonight was to provide that update, and if you have a direction other than the points I've made, I would welcome that direction and answer any questions you have.
Questions or comments?
Yeah.
Dan?
So if we were to get the grant for the 2 electric buses, where would we implement those? Would those go on those 2 routes that are 70-mile routes first? And then shift the fleet around that?
If technology has not advanced by the time those came off the assembly line, the first 30 that'll come out of Gillig in May will probably take them several months. When we visited, they were putting out 40 diesel buses per week, and to fit the electrics in, they're going to take 6 months to produce those first 30. So we have the option of saying, no, we don't want the grant money, if we really believe they're not ready to go on the roads in Pullman. Otherwise, yes, we would put them on low mileage routes. Certainly wouldn't want to try to be anybody's beta or test site for any technology like that.
So have you heard with the people who are buying these electric buses, anybody in cold climates and also with a lot of hills, so we know that somebody else can test them and see if they even can handle that? Because I know even working camera work for television, I mean, as soon as you get cold weather, about half your battery power goes away. And I'm sure the same thing happens with buses. So
The cold is a problem. Wenatchee is one of the better examples. They were my example when I was here in June of an agency our size or larger going fully electric. And their last order was 10 buses, and they sent 8 of those back. They're running 2, they're happy with them, but a simple thing called a radiator is all it took to fix the cold or the hot problems. Those electric bus companies or battery companies really just building buses hadn't figured that out. And when we visited Gillig, that was the fix, industry-wide, to deal with heat and to deal with cold was a radiator cooling and providing heat to the batteries.
you've had very good luck with the hybrids that we've had here because they usually charge up when you're going downhill and all that. So they've worked pretty well for you. Why would you not then just go hybrid and forget about the diesel when at least you're cleaning the air with the hybrids?
It is cleaner. If we were to worry about full compliance with Washington State's Clean Air Act, the hybrids don't get us there. We still have that diesel generator in the bus. So it's cleaner, but it's not meeting the full intent of the law. It's a step in the right direction. And the hills here do help us. The regenerative braking, when you step on the brake, coming to a stop sign or slowing on a hill, that helps recharge the battery. And we're one of the few agencies in the state that I've heard that really like the hybrids. Bellingham got quite a few buses the same time we did. In fact, we bought them off the same contract, and they had a lot of trouble. And I've actually offered to buy their buses, and they had no interest because they have finally figured out the bugs. But they have some hills, but they haven't benefited quite like we have.
Okay.
And I like the hybrids, but they don't quite meet that full carbon-free emissions requirement that the state's after.
Are there dates and deadlines for meeting that standard?
Last June,
Last June.
when I was here, we hadn't ordered, we haven't placed any new orders since then. That's why I came to you, and we received the direction that was appropriate. What it's appearing statewide with what I'm seeing, and when I was in California at the Gillig bus factory in March of this year, which was well after that June deadline, I recognized the names written on the back of several buses. I saw Skagit buses, I saw Link out of Wenatchee, I saw King County, and as the memo I provided you said, they're all diesel buses. They're all getting funding for diesel buses. It appears that the legislation has no teeth, is one way to put it. The loophole is the cost analysis. At this point, it's cheaper to run the diesel buses or the hybrids, so we can't be forced to put fully electric buses on the road if we can't afford it and operate them.
Well, already the hybrids are like, what, two-thirds more than a regular diesel bus?
They are. We're buying a 40-foot bus right now, and it's $680,000 for a 40-foot bus. You can get a diesel bus probably in the $500,000 range for that price, or for that size.
Okay, Eileen, and then...
Yeah, just one more follow-up. Refresh my memory on what our short-term replacement needs are?
I would like to replace a bus every 2 years.
Okay.
And we'll get a hybrid in the fall, probably October. And we're behind schedule on replacing, but we have a lot of old diesels still in service due to the quality work of our mechanics. But eventually, those buses will start going down. They're rather unpredictable. Running 1994, 95, 96 buses, we need to get in a better cycle. And right now, we can't just go write a check out of our own reserves for more than, say, one bus. We need to rely on grants, and we did not get the one last fall. Be great if we got the two buses right now. The technology is questionable enough. I guess my feelings wouldn't be hurt if we didn't get it and focus just on the charging stations. But our replacement cycle is to the point we do need to get buses one way or another soon.
Ann?
Is there a stipulation on the grants for diesel buses that the diesel has to be biofuel or clean?
There's not, but I believe our intention would be that, already having made the step towards hybrids, we would want to do a clean emissions version. And we could run biofuel in the summertime, even the available biofuel. But in the wintertime, it would gel. We would need a higher quality that's not available right now locally.
Is there a difference in price in those diesel engines based on what they burn?
The fuel, yeah, the engines all would burn the same variety of fuels. So a diesel bus would burn diesel, it would burn biofuel, it would burn renewable diesel. But the availability of the diesel and the renewable fuels is the concern right now.
Yeah.
It's simply not available year-round.
So, yeah.
Just the thought, like, I just don't like the idea of going back to diesel when we've already made the transition to purchasing hybrids, and the hybrids seem to be working out for us. And I understand the limitations of the new technology, but I just think it's a step backwards to be looking at diesels. The cost is an issue there, and if the grants are available there, but I'm also concerned about, compliance with the state law. It may not seem like it has teeth now, but that may change in the future. And I don't want to be putting us in a position where we just bought this bus and now we're stuck with it for the next 20 years trying to meet these new standards that are going to come out.
That's a good point. And I would recommend the company we're looking at, Gillig, as having made the right decision on their part. They didn't jump in early. They continue to make diesels, they continue to make hybrids, and they're not selling electric buses to customers yet. They're testing. They didn't do it early. They let everybody else make the mistakes. So I would agree. If and when we do move that direction, the technology through Gillig and the Cummins company, who I believe is going to be the battery manufacturer, we'll have a good product by the time we get one.
And actually, SEL has been doing some of the battery research up here too as well, just not necessarily for buses, but for other things, just like the wind machines. So, Nathan?
Yeah. First of all, really balanced report. I appreciate your input regarding this, and I think you have a good plan. In regards to the technology, I know part of my job is consulting on renewable energy and technology, and this is similar to how when biofuels and so on came out, the technology was not quite there, and there were concerns even way back when Barney Waldrop was on, and he had concerns regarding the technology at that time, and he knows his stuff. So, you know, I believe that, you know, this will come along. An investment in that is going to make, you know, a great impact. But being measured about it, especially when the technology is new, I think is great, and I really appreciate your report on that.
So what I'm hearing from the council is what you outlined for us, you know, the wait and see if you eventually get grants, but let's wait and find out what Gillig is doing.
Let's go ahead with that grant that you're looking at, though.
Yeah, right, sure.
I'll proceed with the grant for the charging stations and the infrastructure and look at electric and hybrids, but no diesel at this point.
Mayor? Yes. Wayne, Spokane just announced that they're going to be moving towards electric buses. Are you familiar with what business they're looking at?
No, last I heard, they had not committed to a company.
I can tell you from the Spokane Community College standpoint, because we're involved with the North-South Freeway and as a trustee on there, they've actually told us the new transit station at Spokane Community College will all be electric buses. It won't be any diesel or anything else, it'll be all Spokane. And you actually represent the Spokane Transit. You're from what company they're dealing with? Or?
So there's two. Another company is called Proterra, and then there's a third one whose name I cannot recall. I was trying to look it up. But yeah, they will be funding they will be having 2 routes that'll be operational next year, if not this fall, that are entirely electric, and they've installed in-route charging at layover stations, at park and rides, to deal with the fact that the overnight charge isn't sufficient.
That matches what I had suspected. They weren't ready to commit last I heard, but Proterra was the company I think they were leaning towards. The other one is BYD, Build Your Dream Bus.
That's it.
Haven't heard much good about them. I went to Spokane about 4 years ago to see their bus, and they couldn't get it off the trailer. Wasn't a good demonstration.
That leaves an impression.
Yeah, it left an impression.
Hate to be the salesperson on that one.
But the in-ground charging stations are a nice feature, but they're highly expensive. I think our charging station startup would be plug-in at night in the shop.
So are you okay with what you heard here?
I have good direction, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Wayne. We appreciate that. Any new business tonight? I know, Dan, you said you have an item.
Yes. If anybody ever wants to experience time travel, I think you should just take a look at our city code. Just scroll through the pages there. There's so much outdated terminology in there. And one of the things that has caught my eye, especially after participating in the search committee for the new city engineer position, is looking through some of the director positions we have that are listed in the city code and what the duties are for those positions. There's a couple of them that use gender terms, and it's solely masculine terms, and I think that's something we should change. I think it should be gender neutral, because gender is not a qualification, and I think that sends the wrong message if we did have to hire a new planning director or a new city administrator or a new public works director, and people are looking at, potential applicants are looking at those sections of city code to look at what does this job entail. I don't want them to be sitting there saying, like, he will do this, he will do that, he will do this. So I think that's something that we should start to look at changing. And I think I'd like to ask if we could get some feedback from the rest of the council on, can we ask staff to look at those 3 positions in the city code and look at changing that language, but then also long-term, there's a lot of that throughout the whole code. And that's a huge piece of work to work on. So as we adopt, or as we make amendments to those code sections in the future, keep an eye out for those gendered terms.
I know in the job descriptions, we've updated that, but with the code, it just doesn't comply.
Because it
with
requires
that.
an amendment.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Laura, some comments on that? Are you okay with this?
Yes, Councilmember Records spoke with Adam and I about that. We can certainly do that in Title I. As he said, it would be a heavy lift to go through the entire code. One of the options I also suggested that could be done together with changes to those job descriptions would be simply adopting a section in Title I in terms of interpretation of the code, that wherever a gender-specific term is used, it means a gender-neutral term, which at least you'd at least have that to refer back to until the rest of the code gets updated, because it'll be an ongoing process. As you know, you update portions of the code significantly, fairly rarely.
Would you be okay with a cover like that to get us by at the beginning?
With these specific ones, with the job descriptions, I think it's important, and it's more than just the functionality of the terminology. It's more about what are we saying with the language that we're using there. But I agree that it's too much to do all at once. I mean, we'd be sitting here reading through the amendments for days. So I think, with that in mind, if we can address these now, and then as we go forward, just have that be a regular item that we're looking at. I think that's what we should be doing.
Would this be something, Laura, that we should have a motion on to address this, or can this
I
be
think
something
just consensus
administratively?
to direct staff to go forward with it is fine.
And it looks to me like everyone's in agreement on that. Okay. Before we adjourn, since Al did notify us that he would not be here tonight, I'd like to have a motion to excuse him.
Oh,
yes.
I had one more.
Okay, we'll do you, and then we'll do the Al thing, okay?
Okay. I wasn't sure if I should bring this up, but since several individuals who are low income have brought it to my attention, I will preface this by saying I completely support the hospital bond and everything else that the bond and investing in the future for Pullman, because it's extremely important to continue moving forward and provide this increased technology and so on. I will say that some of the pressure from these bond measures are beginning to have an adverse effect on some of our low income in the city, and this has been expressed to me. So while I do completely agree in investing, I think we also need to look at the balance and work, and different organizations and we'll put forward bond measures, and I feel it's important for the city to support many of these, but I will say also that some of that pressure is being felt by the working poor, individuals who own their own home, or renters who have to take on the increased rent, especially while they're attending school. But I do want to say, I completely agree with the bond measure. So I'm just putting that out.
Okay, for the record. Now, do I hear a motion to excuse Al Sorensen from this council meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
With that, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.